What's up, everybody? Welcome to SLC Puck. I'm your host, Austin Facer, and how we doing out there, everybody? Have all you Jazz fans stepped off the ledge yet? To safety. Not the other direction. It's been a crazy couple of weeks in Utah sports. I think we're going to talk a little bit about it. So maybe I'll warn you hockey people before we really dive in. Yes, there will be some utterance of the NBA and basketball, but I'm going to tie it back to the Utah Mammoth, the NHL, all kinds of good stuff. But I think there's an interesting conversation to be had here. But hey, welcome to SLC Puck. First and foremost, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're listening to us, I'm guessing. If you're not subscribed already, please, I encourage you to do so. That would be a big help to me. I do the show twice a week from the comfort of a state-of-the-art studio in my mom's basement. We've been remodeling the studio all spring. We'll be doing it into the summer. As I've sort of teased a little bit, we'll be doing some breathtaking technological advancements pretty soon, so that's gonna be a lot of fun. But hey, Austin, I'm sure you're saying to yourself, how do we support you? How do we really put some financial backing behind this? Well, I'll tell you how, good friend. What you can do is go to slcpuck.shop. You can see here we got a brand new line of merch, trademark pending, Big Tusk Energy. We got hats, t-shirts, bucket hats, stickers, more t-shirts, more hats, all this, right? And hey, and here's the best part right now. Get in now on the ground floor of the Big Tusk Energy movement. That's what I say to you. We got founding herd pricing live right now. Everything is $25 or less. That's basically costed me. I just want to see these out in the wild. I want to see the herd grow. I want to see everybody having a good time, flexing their Big Tusk Energy, getting excited about our new identity as a bunch of mammoth-loving maniacs. So that should be a lot of fun. But that is a great way to support the show. So I appreciate those of you who already have made Big Tusk Energy purchases. Greatly appreciate that. I know for a lot of people that was kind of the big news of the week, was the launch of Big Tusk Energy. The most upsetting news of the week, and this is kind of the lead story, what I wanted to talk about today, the misfortune suffered by our NBA franchise. I don't know if you guys knew this. We have an NBA franchise here in Utah. They're called the Utah Jazz. Yeah, it's a weird name. I don't know why they call them that. But anyway, the Utah Jazz, who, by the way, in case you maybe weren't abreast or weren't following the team this year, finished with the NBA's worst record at 17-65, which put them in the running, top of the running, should say, along with two other teams in the NBA, for the best chances of landing, I should say, the first overall pick in this summer's NBA draft. And I'll just go through the odds right here. And again, this is going to make sense. I'll tie it back to the NBA in a minute. Just take a minute here, folks. The Utah Jazz, like I said, 17-65, along with the Washington Wizards, who had an 18-64 season, and the Charlotte Hornets, who went 19-63, all had a 14% chance of landing the first overall pick in the NBA draft, which would presumably be used on Duke's Cooper Flagg. Now, if you were listening to the national NBA pundits, and perhaps you were doing so in between listening to episodes of SLC Puck, and I encourage you to go back and listen to our entire catalog of 108 now episodes, you were probably gathering that this was a very crucial draft for the NBA, for the NBA's Utah Jazz. Cooper Flagg was viewed as a prospect that would be a cornerstone piece for the Jazz, someone they desperately need to get back into relevancy in the NBA. The reality is for the Jazz, just with the nature of the NBA and the what they have to deal with in this market, the Jazz need to find a guy who can be, this is kind of your formula to success, really, I should say, in the NBA. And perhaps in all sports, this could probably apply, but you need to find like a franchise guy who can be a top 10 player in your league for 10 years and keep him home, right? That's sort of like a very foundational blueprint for success. I believe like this is something like Ryan Russillo talked about on The Ringer. And for Utah, I think Cooper Flagg was viewed as being this guy, right? He played at Duke last year, but he grew up in Maine. That's where he went to high school. you get the feeling this would be a guy who would feel right at home playing in Utah for the next decade. Utah has tied for the best odds to win the first overall pick. Hey, the stars are aligning, right? We Jazz fans suffered through a horrific season. And hey, our Utah Hockey Club, our Utah Mammoth, we had lottery luck the week before, right? We jumped from the 14th best odds to pick number 4, where we had just a 1.4% chance of doing so. And hey, they hit, right? So hey, we have our odds are 10 times better to get the first overall pick in the NBA draft, right? Well, wrong. It was a disaster for the Jazz. They fell all the way to 5th here. As you can see, I have Tankathon pulled up right here. So really like a tumultuous fall for the Utah Jazz. That was kind of all a buzz on social media this week. But here's where it gets troubling, right? The Dallas Mavericks, and again, I don't know how many of my hockey listeners have been following the NBA this year, traded Luka Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers, got back Anthony Davis, not a lot else otherwise. And so there's a lot of conspiracy floating around that this was sort of enacted by the NBA, sort of a behind closed doors deal where I think there is a feeling that some people have where the NBA might have gone, hey, you send Luka Doncic to our most important team, the Lakers, and they are the most important team in the NBA in terms of relevancy. We'll ensure that you get the first overall pick to get back in the swing of things real quick and get Cooper Flag. That's a problem for the NBA, that conspiracy is really real. And I think it's such a huge contrast from the NBA. And it doesn't help that the Mavericks, by the way, jumped 10 spots. They had just a 1.8% chance of landing the first overall pick in the NBA draft. But here's the thing, right? There is now all this conspiracy talk in the NBA. And it's so interesting to watch this and compare it to what's happening in the NHL. And again, this is all connected to Utah in some way. And if I'm not connecting the dots as well as I should be, apologies. You know me, I like to rant a little bit. But it's such a problem for the NBA that this conspiracy exists and is proliferating online. And in Utah, where it's happening more than anything, I think there's a lot of salty Salt Lakeans who are quite upset about what happened in the NBA draft. And I think when you just look at the surface, it's a little fishy, right? It does seem kind of weird. It seems like all the pieces of a good conspiracy are there. And I know you're thinking, Austin, you're the guy who has a tinfoil hat at arm's reach, like at any given time. I'm sure you're buying into the conspiracy. And let me tell you, I am tempted to reach over and grab it and put it on. I am trying to be a little restrained, though. I do think it's like fishy and weird. But I tend to believe that like this was just an act of God. This is actually just what happened. There was like a very credible source in the room. And again, I should explain the main difference between the NHL draft and the NBA draft lottery, I should say, the NBA draft lottery and the NHL draft lottery. They were done differently, essentially the same, I guess. But the difference being the NBA did their lottery drawing behind a closed door with no cameras, no transparency, whereas the NHL did theirs in full view of the public on live television in camera. And that's where that difference right there is where the conspiracy lies. And I think and again, I don't think that this was a conspiracy. Andy Larson of the Salt Lake Tribune was on hand for the NBA draft lottery selection. He was in that closed room. His phone was taken from him, so he wasn't able to tweet it out as it happened. But think about this. It's kind of a dog and pony show in the NBA. So all the team representatives, a few select media, they were all in the room. They see the drawing. They know what the results are. And then they parade out to that big room, that big set, and they do the show on ESPN and pretend like they're surprised, when the picks get announced. But they know before they head into that room when the results get announced on television, which is maybe surprising to some people. But again, it's the fact that this happened behind a closed door that like allows for conspiracy theories to come creeping in. And it's so interesting And I'm trying to just put all these thoughts together in a coherent way. But it's so interesting that, the NBA, we see a team that has a 1.8% chance of having a 10-spot jump. That's a huge conspiracy. The NHL, our team, the Utah Mammoth, have a 1.4% chance of jumping up 10 spots. No conspiracy, right? There appears to be a never-ending list of things that the NBA can take from the NHL. And I think this is a really big one because from an optics perspective, this is a terrible look for the NBA. It's not good for the NBA, which is the most conspiracy prone league in sports for good reason. I would add, there have been a lot of point shaving scandals involving players and officials. There has been some tomfoolery with the NBA draft in years past. I think Patrick Ewing and the frozen envelope come to mind. Look that up if you don't know what I'm talking about. But again, the NBA needs to learn a lesson from the NHL, which is do this frickin' thing, in full view of the public. I think people would be a lot happier about the outcome. There'd be a lot less conspiracy talk on Twitter, on Instagram. Maybe they don't care, but I think they should. I think it's a really bad look for the league and for the sport as a whole. And there's a lot of people, and that conspiracy is just not going to go away. They can put it out on as many press releases as they can. They can have good journalists like Andy Larson, preach the truth. But again, it's just bad. It's a conspiracy that's hard to escape. It's like Pandora's box. Yeah, it's just open. You can't get the conspiracy back in the box. So it's a huge problem. But again, I think this also, the results of this NBA draft lottery sort of play into a theory that I've had, and sort of like a big reason why I started SLC Puck, is that I really do think we're going to see a transition in Utah. And I think the outcome of these two draft lotteries are only going to accelerate this transition even more, where we're going to see Utah really go from being a Jazz first pro sports state to being a Mammoth first pro sports state. And hey, what better way to do that than to buy some Big Tusk Energy merch, right? That's a great way to be a part of the movement. But the reality is, for the Jazz, they had a horrible 2024-2025 season. They're in for another one. The next season for the Utah Jazz is going to be a nightmare. They're going to finish with a very similar record. I think there's no chance they're going to let this team win more than 20 games, because for the Jazz, this is it. This is like their path to getting relevant again. They can go out and sign as many like mid-tier free agents as they want, like guys who are just maybe desperate for a last paycheck, or they can overpay for some guys who aren't going to stay very long. But if I think for the Jazz, like, it's clear that this is the strategy that they've chosen, and now they have to lean into it and essentially keep trying until they get it. They have to keep putting the maximum amount of ping pong balls in the mixer as long as they can until it hits. I don't see any other way. And while Jazz fans are suffering through this, I think the Mammoth are going to be building a trajectory towards winning a championship, bringing a Stanley Cup to Salt Lake. And I think it's going to galvanize the entire attention of sports fans and just casual sports fans in the state of Utah. Because the Mammoth are getting good. They're getting good really fast. I talked about this last episode, or maybe 2 episodes, or maybe I've been talking about it for 3 episodes now. I do so many episodes, it's hard to keep track. But the fact that they scored the 4th overall pick in this summer's draft is a huge accelerant in their trajectory. I think it probably takes a year, maybe 2 off of like their eventual Stanley Cup trajectory. I've always thought that their season is going to be 2030. I think you can accelerate that to 2028 maybe, or even 2029, depending on what they do. They have so many freaking options with this pick now. It's going to be the fun thing, right? The Utah Mammoth going to pick 4th. Utah Jazz pick 5th. Isn't that crazy? And the Mammoth had such a better season. What's up, guys? If you're anything like me, you probably screwed up Mother's Day by not getting your mother that special something she deserves. Well, I've got great news. There is a path to redemption, and it's by visiting our good friends Payne Anthony Creative Jewelers at Charlie Square and Jonathan's Jewelry in Cottonwood Heights. They've got some of the most incredible jewelry. They've had this like vintage jewelry sell buying event going on where they've got some like incredibly unique pieces that you can't find anywhere else. Go over there, check it out. You'll get something that'll get you back in your mom's good graces. And if you're like, oh, but money's a concern, guess what? Good news. By listening to SLC Puck, you can get $100 off of your purchase at either one of those locations. Again, Jonathan's Jewelry in Cottonwood Heights, Payne Anthony Creative Jewelers at Trolley Square. And just to sweeten the deal even more, we've got this great raffle we've been doing for quite a while now. You scan this QR code in the corner, you'll be prompted to send a message, hit send on that sucker, and you'll be entered into our raffle for a $250 gift card. We've been giving these out like hotcakes lately. So many winners, so many people getting in on the fun and getting a great deal on some incredibly good jewelry that your mother will love and forgive you for being such a goofball and not getting it when you should have. And it's partially on me. I should have reminded you as well. So anyway, get there, get to those jewelry stores, get the good stuff, and tell them SLC Puck sent you. And let's get back to the show. Then the Jazz. Isn't that nuts? And they're going to get a better draft pick too. That equates to having a better player, or perhaps having something that they could, dangle in front of some other teams. And just sort of say, hey, what do you want for this? You want this, don't you? What's coming our way? I've said that should be an interesting option. I think if they are to keep the pick, and this is something maybe I'll dive more into in a future episode. I think there are some really interesting prospects, especially like at the forward position, guys who can arrive in the NHL. Perhaps not for next season, but the year after. I think that's something that can be said with great certainty about maybe guys in the top 5. A guy that I've kind of been studying a little bit, and I think seems to be a really good fit, and I think a lot of the other hockey commentators and pundits would agree and have said, and I'm stealing their insight as well, is Porter Martone, who's a big-bodied winger who's going to be available in this year's NHL draft. So I think that's a name that Utah hockey fans, I keep wanting to say Utah Hockey Club. It's all about retraining the neuron pathways in your brain. You know what I mean? I should get some electrodes on my skull, and so every time I want to say Utah Hockey Club, I get a nice little zap until I get it right. But then it might cross some other wires. I don't know. We'll see. We're going to try all kinds of different things here to get the show as good as we can. So maybe a lobotomy could be something we could look into. I don't know. Anyway, what was I saying? So Porter Martone is a name we should be floating out. I think I'm going to butcher his name. Caleb Denoy is another one, and he's a French-Canadian guy. And again, there's going to be all kinds of impossible to pronounce names that I'm looking forward to butchering in years to come with this club. But it's fun. I think it's going to be a really, really exciting summer, and we're going to see this team maybe do some interesting things in free agency. Obviously the name that is the hottest commodity, the guy who's probably going to become the highest paid player in hockey this year, Mitch Marner, his Toronto Maple Leafs. And I'm recording this right now at 9:42 on May 14th. His Maple Leafs just lost Game 5, a 6-1 rout to the reigning Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, 6-1 loss. So they're on the ropes right now, the Maple Leafs, of losing that series, getting eliminated in the second round. I'm going to try to do this episode while reading some scores, so that's tricky. So, this is kind of interesting. It started the third period between Golden Knights, Oilers. Golden Knights are facing elimination right now in Game 5. It's tied up at 0-0, just starting the third period. So, again, the Maple Leafs and Mitch Marner are going to be one thing to watch, especially if we're talking about how serious the Utah Hockey Club is about getting really good really fast. That's obviously the Mitch Marner's name has been the one that's been the most talked about, I should say. But it's so great that we're here in May and we're now officially a hockey town. We can talk about this kind of stuff, get excited about a big future. Again, I think this is only going to get bigger and better. I'm staking my entire livelihood on this, so I sure hope it does. But I've been playing a lot more hockey. More than anything, I've kind of rediscovered myself in a lot of ways. The story with me, right? That right there, you see my Viewmont High School hockey jersey there hanging up. Played a lot of hockey as a teenager and younger, and I'm getting back into it. As I've talked about on the show, I help out with the Utah Mammoth's Youth Learn to Play program. So I did 3 clinics the last 2 days over at the Oval, which was a lot of fun working with the kids there, kids that are learning how to play. And then a Team Utah is going to be a travel team representing the state. They're headed to Anaheim in the next couple weeks to play a little tournament there. The kids are from the Learn to Play kids, they're learning and growing super fast, which is really cool to see. And a lot of the kids who are going to be playing for Team Utah are like super, super talented, like way more talented than I ever was at their age. And we're working with kids from like 10 to 14, and there are some really awesome skaters on that team. It's been so much fun to work with that. One of my coworkers, fellow coaches, her name's Kiara, and I'm probably mispronouncing it. It's either Kiara or Kiara. I think it's Kiara. Yeah, she's from Provo. She goes to BYU. She helps out with the Learn to Play program. But she leaned over to me during today's session at the Oval with the Learn to Play kids, and she's like, "I can't believe how many girls there are in our thing." And she was right. Like, it was like definitely noticeable. I'd say like of our group of like 30, there had to have been at least 8 girls in our group, which was like pretty cool to see. It sort of plays into like, what Alex Kerfoot, who is on the Utah Hockey Club, has been. I keep wanting to say that. It's Utah Mammoth, Austin. Get it right, Austin. It's Utah Mammoth, and everybody who's listening already knows who Alex Kerfoot is. You don't need to explain that he's on the Utah Mammoth. But anyway, he was nominated for the King Clancy Award, which is essentially the good guy award in hockey, and sort of the cause that he supports above all is sort of girls and women in hockey. And I think he would be really psyched to see just how big the representation is becoming in our Learn to Play and on our Team Utah. The Oval's such a great rink, by the way. It is kind of a tricky walk from the locker rooms to the ice sheet. You have to go up and down some stairs. The elevator's not working right now, so got to lug your bag down the stairs. It's like really loud and annoying. I use a wheeled bag. What can I say? I don't have the shoulder strength to carry it over my back. But yeah, I've been spending a lot of time at the Oval, and this is just my winding down rant here for the episode. It's fun. Like I said, it's been a pretty amazing process to be rediscovering myself through hockey. I played in my first, organized hockey game in like 15 years this week. And I think maybe that might be surprising to some of my teammates who are listening to this episode. I was heavily recruited by some listeners to join a men's league team this summer. And so I joined a team over at the Oval, just in the D League. Over there, and D Division D. I don't know. I really see I never bothered to learn this because I just went so long between playing games. But I play for a team with a great group of dudes. We had our first game this week. I cannot say the name of our team because this show is on KSL.com for some reason. And let me just say it's a very fun adult kind of name that I think a lot of adults would appreciate. But you kiddos out there, I shan't destroy the illusion that I'm family friendly, so I can't tell you. But I mean, let me just say that, like, I'm going to try to put this as humbly as I can. I played really well. I had a really, really good game. I scored 2 goals. I had an assist. Our team won 6-2. It was a rout. I would say my line, we were probably responsible for 4 of the goals. And, I had, like I said, two goals and an apple on the night. So I was really, really surprised at myself. I've been kind of riding this high for the last 24 hours now. So I'm hoping I don't come down anytime soon, but we'll keep you guys, and I know you guys are eagerly awaiting updates on this throughout the summer. So we'll keep you abreast on how my team, which I wish I could tell you the name of on the show, but I probably can't. Maybe at the end for a fun. If we win the championship, I'll reveal our name, and you adults out there can awkwardly explain to your kids why it's funny. But anyway, what was I? But again, it's been pretty amazing, pretty fun to rediscover myself with hockey, and I encourage you guys. I'm going to use this as a way to promote the Learn to Play program for the Utah Mammoth. It is a ton of fun. I think for me, like, it's been like pretty cool to go to these things. And I primarily go to the ones at the Oval, like I said, and the one at Cottonwood Heights Ice Center. But it's been really great to have like parents come up to me and say that they're familiar with the show, that they like listening to it. That's always surprising to me. Some of the kids even recognize, they're like, "Aren't you on YouTube?" Like, I've heard that from a couple kids on the ice. I'm like, yeah, I guess what, they let anyone on YouTube. So, it's not that cool of an achievement, but it's been really great to network that way. So if I have like a couple of parents who are listening to this, right now, I just want to say thanks for saying hi. It's fun getting to know you and spend a little time with your kids on the ice. I've talked about this before, but like, it's been very shocking to me. Like I'd never expected this to happen in my life. I had no idea that getting into hockey and falling in love with it at age 8 would change my life at like age 32. I never could have guessed. I had no idea that was going to happen. And so I think that could definitely happen to anybody. And so, get out there. Like, I see a lot of like little Austin Facers out there on the ice, and as my sister would say, Austinas, because that's what she would call, my girl name. So, lots of great, young female players out there as well. So it's fun. I really hope everybody gets involved. If you have the opportunity, I think they make it really easy to get involved. $250 for the gear, and the ice time is a pretty sick deal. So, hey, we'll end on that. Let's just do one more quick check-in on the Golden Knights Oilers score here. Let's see. It's still 0-0 with 14 minutes to go in the third, so I know what I'll be doing the rest of the night. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of SLC Puck. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. You can follow me on social media at SLC Puck. But hey, guess what else? I've got social media handles for Big Tusk Energy. Like I said, Big Tusk Energy, everything $25 or less with the Big Tusk Energy branding on it. So make sure you check that out, and we'll talk to you guys real soon. Oh yeah, big technological advancements coming, as I've been teasing on the show for quite a bit. So stay up on that, and we'll talk soon. Thanks, guys.